Game theory is actually a part of philosophy. It's a mathematical model of games. Games are serious business. See, games are not fun necessarily. They can be fun. That doesn't make a game a game. A game isn't a game by... Fun is not one of the criteria of a game. Criteria of a game involve objectives and goals, and they involve restrictions. You with me? And at the end of the day, that's our lives. And that's the world. It's a game. You've got objectives and you've got restrictions. And that's it. It's neutral. It's neutral. We need to learn how to get to our objective without falling into quicksand, understanding that the restrictions are part of the game. You with me? And this is what we have to be very careful of. Now, I come from a perspective of health. I have been a lover of the human body in a scientific sense, in all senses really, for 30 plus years, and I've studied it hardcore. Not because I have to, but because I love it. You know, some people, it's like if somebody likes the Broncos or somebody likes the football team, they don't have any home runs somebody hit. I know about vitamin C and molecular reactions. That's my thing. Okay? I'm a nerd that way. I like chemistry. I'm fascinated with chemistry. I first saw biochemistry when I first took biochemistry in pharmacy school. I'm a pharmacist by trade. Well, I don't practice that, really. When I first understood biochemistry and how we are biochemical beings, I became so deeply spiritual. So deeply spiritual that to this day, my whole life is directed by the incredible nature, the magical, divine, whatever word you want to say, spectacularly scientific, intricate nature of what we are, of what our bodies are. You guys, we're composed of 100 trillion little entities that are conscious, that are capable of producing millions and millions and millions of different substances. You want to talk about change? Millions and millions and millions of different molecular substances every split second. Not second, split second. With an intricacy and a precision and a choreography and a compartmentalization at this not nano level, femto, pico level, tiniest of levels, beyond science fiction, beyond our imagination. It's what we are. Yet, we don't have the first friggin' clue on how to take care of it. And what makes matters worse is there's a system in place that exploits that manipulates that takes advantage of that for its own nefarious ends. But there's many levels to this game. There's many restrictions to this game. And one of the most important of these restrictions is to understand that falling into fear and falling into anger is part of the plan. It's part of the plan. It's one of the restrictions. Because when we fall into fear and we fall into anger from a biochemical perspective, from a health perspective, we shut down. We close. We contract. I am the guy who's privy to the disease process in a personal sense on a repeated way. You may get sick, and you may get sick, and you may get sick, or you may have a family member who gets sick. But I see it thousands of times in a lifetime. I see it over and over and over and over again. The disease process, the breakdown process, is a direct manifestation of contraction that has a metaphor that is metaphorized by fear. That fear is a reflection of, because ultimately there's only two forces. Anybody do A Course in Miracles ever?
Yeah.
What are the two forces?
Love and fear.
Love and fear. Love and fear. Everywhere you look. You can call it light and dark. You can call it sickness and health. You can call it building and breaking down. You can call it good and evil. You can call it disease and health. Did I say that one? Disease and health. You call it any kind, yin and yang. You call it whatever you want. It's a primal distinction. The fundamental distinction. It's light and dark, good and bad, disease and health. And they're all the same thing. And fear represents contraction and it represents disease. And love represents expansion and it represents health. Fear represents fragmentation. Love represents health. Love is the attractive force. Health comes from the same place as holy, as whole. Whole. One piece. You guys get this? Fragmentation, separation is what we have to be careful of. So, hang on. You obviously want to ask something, Vic.
Let's hold questions over here, guys.
Yeah, do you have something you want to say?
Well, I just wanted to say that our government runs on fear. That's why
Yes.
Jill Stein is saying,
Yes.
vote your values, not your
Yes.
fears.
Well, hang on. Let me just finish my thought here. The fear is a reflection of the unknown. Fear is a reflection of the unknown. This is why faith and love go together. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. Faith is when you know something without seeing it. And that's why faith is related to love. Fear, on the other hand, comes from when we don't understand something. We don't know something. Anybody ever get cancer? Anybody know anybody got cancer? The ultimate mystery fear. Actually, no, the second ultimate. Death is the ultimate. In the world of health, if we don't understand how to run our bodies, we will automatically fall into fear. We will automatically fall into contraction. We will automatically fall into the disease process and the breakdown process. And so my mission in life, even though I'm an activist, even though I'm not an activist, is to help activists. I'm not a political activist, I'm a health activist. I'm like the EMT at the Grateful Dead concert. You guys can go party and I will take care of things and I'll help you understand things and I'll be neutral in the battle. Okay, somebody has to do that. Somebody has to be the EMT, right? So my mission in life is to help people understand their bodies. To understand this Lamborghini that we're running, Lamborghini doesn't even, doesn't begin to say what it is, but it's just kind of metaphor for this extremely fine-tuned precision machine that we have, that we don't have the first friggin' clue about how to take care of. How many of you guys know where your gallbladder is? We have an educated crowd. Usually there's not that many. That's good. How many of you know what your gallbladder does? Damn, I'm impressed. Are you a medical person or? Homeopathic. Okay. How many non-medical people know what their gallbladder is or what it does, or their pancreas, or their, or spleen, or any other system? Well, some of you obviously were in an educated crowd, but the vast majority of people don't.
I'm in A&P right now.
You're what?
So A&P, anatomy and physiology.
Okay.
So
All right. Good. Good. You're probably on top of it. But most people don't know. And that's why when a woman goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, you got ovarian cysts, we have to take your ovary out, you're like, whatever. Or you got stones in your gallbladder, we got to take your gallbladder out, you're like, whatever. Take it out. I don't know what that silly thing does anyway. We're confronted on so many different scandals and epidemics and abuses from a physical level that it's like biblical. It's on so many different levels. It's pesticides, and it's topsoil, and it's synthetic foods that didn't exist 200 years ago that we're subsisting on, and it's sugar, and it's pharmaceuticals, and it's we're being assaulted on so many different levels from a physical perspective, organismic perspective. Because you know what? Ideas are great, and I'm an ideas person. Love is great, and feelings are great, but ultimately we're organisms. We're biological organisms. And we're confronted at an organismic level attack on a moment-to-moment basis. And it has to be conscious. It can't be that stupid. And it has to be, if it is conscious and it is planned, it has to be on such a high level that it's like mind-blowing. It's like galactic or cosmic. That's how big a level it has to be, if it's conscious, because that's how well the plan is. But it's a game. It's a game, which means we can get from point A to point B if we understand how to play it. You guys get me here? If we understand how to play the body game, the health game, the physical game, the what we are as an organismic level game, we can get from point A to point B, which the way I look at it is to go from birth to death and not rot on the way, which is what happens. Okay? Got it? We go from point A to point B and we decay and we rot because we don't understand how to take care of this machine. What makes matters worse is that the system is set up to prey on that, to exploit that, to leverage that. But it doesn't mean to get upset about it. Do you guys know the story of the scorpion and the frog? Anybody know the story of the scorpion and the frog? Should I tell the story of the scorpion and the frog?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in its nature.
What's that? Yes. The scorpion and the frog. A scorpion and frog are walking down walking down the road, and they come to a river, and the scorpion says to the frog, "Hey, you can swim. I can't swim. Can I get on your back and we'll go across the river?" And the frog says, "Are you crazy? You're a scorpion. I'm not going to let you on my back. Scorpions bite frogs." And the scorpion says, "Don't be silly. If we're out in the middle of the river and I bite you, you're going to drown, then I'm going to drown. That would be stupid. I'm not going to do this. Why would I do something that stupid?" Frog thinks about it, and he goes, "Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Get on my back." So the scorpion gets on the frog's back, and the frog goes through the river, comes halfway through the river, now, boom, the scorpion bites the frog. And as the frog is dying, dropping down, and the scorpion is dropping down with him, the frog says, "You stupid scorpion! What did you do? You bit me, now I'm going to drown, and you're going to drown. How could you be so stupid?" And the scorpion goes, "I'm a scorpion. That's what I do." And likewise, we've got a model that's in place. We've got institutions that are in place. Medical institutions, health institutions, pharmacological institutions, food institutions. Institutions everywhere that are scorpions, and it doesn't do us any good to rail about it. That's what they do. But through understanding, in my case, understanding health, and in a more political sense, understanding the political system, understanding what we're up against, we can eliminate fear, because fear is based on the unknown, and we can navigate the restrictions to go from point A to point B, which from a physical perspective is getting to be about 120 years old to 150 years old, or at least 100 years old, without rotting on the way, to where you're still playing tennis in your 90s.
Wow.
What's that?
Wow.
And it can be done. It's done all the time. It's done all the time. It's not done a lot, but it's done all the time. There are people playing tennis in their 90s. There's people climbing up the Empire State Building, going up and down the stairs. Some guy won a marathon or some kind of race going up and down the Empire State Building. Jack LaLanne was pulling boats with his teeth. I don't know if he was doing that. But he was doing something dramatic when he was like, right? Something crazy.
He like swam
something
across
ridiculous.
the English Channel,
Yes.
pulling 6 boats with his teeth when he was
Yes.
80 years old.
Guys, that's what's possible. That is what's possible if we understand the Lamborghini. So I'm going to tell you about the Lamborghini. I'm going to tell you how the whole disaster starts by how this health disaster. Now, some of you are very young here. I see very young people. You have no idea what awaits you if you're like a standard American. Now, you're not a standard American, so you're probably going to be skewed a little bit towards the slowing down the aging process. But for the standard American, the aging process is not a good thing. It doesn't have to be such, but we have to understand how the thing falls apart if we're going to understand how to fix it. Correct?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. We've got to understand how the thing is a disaster if we're going to understand how to make a difference with it. Now, before I even get started, I've got to tell you this, because I always start, sometimes I forget, but I like to always start my talks by saying healing and health are multidimensional, as is all of life. There's a spiritual dimension, a mental dimension, an emotional dimension, and a physical dimension. And the mental and emotional are like two sides of the same coin, the way I look at it. From a health perspective, all disease to me is spiritual, in the sense that we feel disconnected. Remember, there's a relationship between fragmentation and disconnection and disease, correct? You guys get that? There's a relationship between wholeness and health and fragmentation and disease. And ultimately, we feel spiritually disconnected when we're sick, or when we're diseased, or we're not accessing our healing powers. We feel somehow a lack of connection with what the divine force, which is always whole. That's the only way disease can show up. So if somebody's not feeling as good as they should, if they've got cancer, if they've got acne, if they've got anything, there's a spiritual component that is a reflection of a sense of disconnection. And I don't want to belabor that point, but I just want you to know that's where I'm coming from. And then it goes down mentally and emotionally. Every time you think a thought, chemistry changes, for better or worse. The Bible says you're either with me or against me. Right? You're not in one, you're either one or the other. You're either in love or fear, one or the other. From a mental perspective, if you're thinking crappy thoughts, you're making crappy chemistry. Crappy thoughts are anger, crappy thoughts are jealousy, crappy thoughts are rage, and there's a relationship between crappy thoughts and crappy feelings. They're almost the same. This is an artificial distinction, basically. Because every time you think a thought, there's a corresponding feeling, and vice versa. Every time you feel a feeling, there's a corresponding thought. And that creates chemistry, and that creates either the chemistry of wellness and health and building, or the chemistry of disease, the chemistry of love or the chemistry of fear, the chemistry of building or the chemistry of breaking down. You guys with me? Making sense?
Yeah.
You see, this is, right? You like this?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so you got this primal distinction, love, fear, health, wellness. If you want to be healthy, if you want to understand how to be healthy, you got to understand how to be more in the love side, more in the healing side, more in the wholeness side, and less in the fear side, and less in the anger side, and less in the shutdown side, the contraction side. And to do it, we have to understand how this whole system goes awry, how it all breaks down. Because you know what? We wouldn't have survived if we were meant to be as sick and as fat and as diabetic and as diseased as we are. We would not have made it. Do you understand? The fact that we made it hundreds of thousands of years from our ancestors on the African savannah to here is testimony to the fact that we are amazingly perfect beings, organismically. You guys get me?
Yeah.
Okay, organismically, we wouldn't have made it. A baby's perfect if everything is correct. However, and this is the sad fact, our disaster, this disaster of health, begins at birth. Actually, it begins prenatally. Which is why the greatest thing a mother can do if she's going to have a baby is make sure she's taking care of her baby in the womb. And there's multiple ways of doing it. For many of our parents, certainly the standard American parents, that didn't happen. However, forget prenatally. When a baby comes down the birth canal, that baby's supposed to be drenched in bacteria. How many of you have experienced this? Well, observed it. We've all experienced it. Not necessarily.
Raise your hand.
No. How many of your mothers? You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about? The baby gets bathed in bacteria. Those bacteria, for the rest, it's very ironic and very interesting in a way because those bacteria are the major health criteria, or the major criteria for health of that for that baby for the rest of that baby's life. We are held hostage to colonies of bacteria in our colon for our health and wellness. They are our health angels. And they're personal. Everybody has their own. In fact, in the future, they'll be detecting various people and various diseases simply by the signature of what's called the microbiome. Micro meaning small, bio meaning life, biome meaning the world of small life that lives in our colon. That's made up of trillions of bacteria, the most lowly and humble life form on the planet, runs our lives. Now, this is under a good situation. The baby's bathed with bacteria. However, 33% of babies are born cesarean. So immediately, you've got 1 out of 3 babies who are compromised. Immediately. Right off the bat, they just got out of the womb. Now, that also predisposes that mother has good bacteria to pass to baby, that mother is well taken care of. You can eliminate another 20%. That's 1 out of 2 already. 1 out of 2 babies already. Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. Because even if that baby's lucky enough to come out of the tube of the birth canal with the bacterial coat, see, human babies are born premature. Nature has a weird setup because human beings have big heads. We're born with big heads. It's difficult enough to get through the birth canal, right? Imagine if the head was fully formed and if the body was fully developed and it was a fully developed human being, entity. It would be much more difficult to pass, so human beings come out early. Human beings come out premature. Human beings come out immature, but that's not a problem. Divine force is perfect. We wouldn't have survived this long if there wasn't an allowance made for that. And there is. The most premature or immature systems in a baby, in a human baby, are the digestive system / immune system. They're the same system, FYI. Digestive system / immune system. We'll get to that in a second. And that's the system that breaks down, that is the most immature, the most premature. But that's not a problem because nature's perfect. Always. Divine force is perfect. We wouldn't have survived this long. So we got a system in place that grows the digestive tract lining and supports the immune system and the nervous system, the health in general of the baby. That's called breast milk. All right? The most powerful food a human being can ingest, breast milk. We should all have our own source of breast milk somewhere. Ideally, I don't know why.
Our own wet nurse.
We really should. We really should from a health perspective. If you're a movie star, you're a rich person, you can afford anything you want, fine. You should have a breast of your own that you can, milk whatever you want because it's the best stuff. It's growth stuff. It's anti-cancer. It builds the immune system. It builds the digestive tract. It's perfect. However, how many babies aren't breastfed? Probably about 1 out of 3, or 1 to 2 to 1 out of 3 aren't breastfed at all. Formula. Now it's getting a little bit better, but people my age, people in their 40s, people in their 50s, people in their 60s, forget it. They were told, their mothers were told that it was old-fashioned.
Yeah.
The same thing that they're telling people in third world countries today. People tell mothers in Africa today that it's old-fashioned to use breast milk. So right off the bat, we're compromised. Many of us are compromised through not getting the bacteria. We're not getting the breast milk, or even if we're getting the breast milk, the mother's not doesn't have enough nutrients to support healthy breast milk, or she's not feeding long enough. Immediately, the baby is not even a week old. And this is 2/3 of us. You guys getting this? It gets worse. It gets worse. All right? Once the digestive tract breaks down, you're off to the races. Because the digestive tract is not you. The digestive tract is a hallway between the outside world and the inside world. The ancient Greeks actually thought the digestive system was was a little animal that lived inside the body. It really did, because it has its own brain. The digestive system has its own brain. It's called your enteric brain, or your second brain. Ever try to not vomit? Doesn't work. Doesn't work, does it? You will vomit, or whatever. You come out the other end. Whatever end, it's out of your control. It's called your enteric nervous system, your second brain, and it's like it runs the digestive tract and keeps the digestive tract operating semi-autonomously. Pretty autonomously, actually. The digestive tract's purpose is to vet anything from getting into the real body. Do you guys know what I mean when I say vet? To check. It's like Studio 54. You ever see that movie, Studio 54? You can come in. You stay out. You can come in. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right? Beginning, they had the bouncer at Studio 54, and he would pick people to come in, tell people not to come in, and that's the lining of your digestive tract that depended on the mother's milk and the probiotics and the good bacteria that were coming in, and is immediately compromised. When that gets compromised, stuff gets into the blood. That's not good. The blood is the sacred space, the holy of holies. Nothing gets into the blood unless it is vetted and allowed and passed through the liver, which is like security. It's like immigration, basically. That's what it is. It's like TSA, yes, that's what it is. It's deactivating, and oh man, your liver, that's amazing. Hepatitis C, it's like another one of the, add to the list of diseases that are like epidemics. That's a classic sign of a liver that's pooped. These days, 30% of Americans have something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You know why they call it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? Because they got to separate it from the kind of liver disease that you used to have to drink Jack Daniels out of a paper bag on Larimer Street to get. Now everybody's getting it.
Cirrhosis?
Cirrhosis is a version. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is kind of a generic term. Cirrhosis and fatty liver and anything that goes wrong with the liver is a manifestation of stuff that's getting into the body that shouldn't be getting into the body. Any case, once the liver is involved, the liver regulates energy and energy metabolism. It also regulates sugar metabolism. So now you've got a kid. The kid is probably about 8 or 9 years old, say. He's got digestive tract, all kinds of digestive problems, been constipated his whole life, breaking out. Say he's 11 or 12 or 13, he's breaking out. He's manifesting all of the signs of disease that we consider to be normal. All of the signs of disease that we consider to be normal. That's how sick we are, that we consider to be normal. Yes?
Just one thing. There's been an increase about 400% in food allergies.
That's a huge problem. And the GMO thing doesn't help and all of that. But here's the thing. I'm going to get to the good news. This is the bad news. Okay, there's good news here. There's good news. How many of you heard my radio program? Okay, what's the name of it? No. The name of the program is The Bright Side, because it's about the good news. I'm giving you the bad news here, but ultimately this is a good news story. The good guys can win, potentially. So anyway, so the kid is now 8, 9 years old. Because he's got this history of changes in blood sugar, now he's got the beginnings of what's called dysglycemia. Dys means dysfunction, messed up. Glyce means sugar. Emia means blood. Messed up blood sugar. They used to call it adult onset diabetes. Now they just call it type 2 diabetes because kids get it. The same condition, it's a rare condition from an evolutionary standpoint, diabetes, because we never had any sugar really. The body doesn't really know what to do with sugar, and it is a major control trip. There's a reason why sugar stays at $1.50 a pound. Anybody notice this? Always. They do not mess with the price of sugar. They keep that sugar, you get a steady stream of it. No problem there. Sugar is a major source of power, a major restriction in the game. Major. And it does us no good to rail about fluoride and synthetic chemicals and drugs if we are indulging in the single most toxic gram for gram chemical we could possibly eat in terms of the amount we're getting. It's not as toxic as, pesticides or something, but in terms of the amount we're getting, it's the single most toxic thing we interact with. And it's everywhere. Everywhere. And it's one of the most powerful ways that you can increase and access and leverage the healing powers of your body and anti-age and be strong is to stay as far away from that as you can. Because from an evolutionary standpoint, we never had sugar. We were lucky to get a berry. That was the sugar. Maybe some honey, if you were lucky. But all nature's sources of sugar come complete with everything you need to use them. We never had this much pure, powerful sugar. And I'll tell you about sugar here in a second, the reason why it's so dangerous. But anyway, your kid now has dysglycemia and the beginnings of weight problems. By the time the kid is now in his 20s, the dysglycemia can become very significant. And over the course of changes in how the body handles sugar, the body goes through these periods of high blood sugar and low blood sugar. You eat a bunch of sugar, or drink a sugary beverage, which is the worst, and it's much worse once the intestinal lining has been damaged because then the sugar goes in really fast. You eat a bunch of sugar, your sugar goes up. Body can't handle sugar because sugar is explosive. If there's ever a fire in a sugar factory, it takes like all the fire engines from cities around the factory to put the thing out, and it takes days to put it out. You ever get a sugar burn? Sugar burns hot, and it's very explosive, and the body doesn't like it. The body doesn't like highs and lows. It likes stable. It wants to be stable at all times. And so, over the course of these high blood sugar and low blood sugar, I call it the high blood sugar, low blood sugar roller coaster, you've got these periods in between where there's not a lot of energy. There's low energy. As the sugar's being pulled out of the blood, we go into low energy. That's called hypoglycemia. Anybody ever hear of this? Mm-hmm. Hypoglycemia is when you've eaten so much sugar, your body's yanking it all out because it's an emergency. By the way, you know where it yanks it out, sticks it when it yanks it all out is on our butts and on our hips. That's what body fat is. It's the body's protective way of protecting itself from sugar. And, in any case, you go through these periods of adrenal activation. Your adrenal glands are your stress glands, your emergency glands. And while you're going through these periods of low blood sugar, your adrenal glands are kicking in. Your adrenal glands help you run from a saber-toothed tiger. Your adrenal glands are amazing, and your whole emergency system is amazing, but it's only supposed to run once in a while. It's not supposed to be dealing with dysglycemia, and it's not supposed to be dealing with toxemia from a messed up digestive system. And by the time the kid is now in his 20s or 30s, he is hypoadrenal or hyperadrenal, one or the other. He's dysglycemic, he's got messed up blood sugar. Well, something very interesting happens when the adrenal glands are constantly cranking. And by the way, you can tell you have adrenal glands that are constantly cranking if you're craving salt, if you have something called postural hypotension, which is where you bend down and stand up and feel a little dizzy. Anybody experience that ever? Or you get out of bed and you feel a little dizzy? Classic sign of adrenal stress. If you get up in the middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep, another one. Insomnia, another one. High blood pressure, another one. These are all the manifestations, and they're epidemic of excess adrenal activity. And because your adrenal glands are your stress glands, they're the link between mental and emotional. Mental and emotional stressors run through the adrenal glands as well. So this is where we have some power. And I'll talk about that here in a second.
Forget about your immune problems.
What's that? All of it is with the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands suppress the immune system. The adrenal glands, thank you for bringing that up. That's a huge point. The adrenal glands suppress the immune system because when you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, immunity is not relevant. You understand what I'm saying? Your resources are all marshaled towards getting yourself out of that situation. So something very interesting happens when you're adrenally stressed. You have a second system of energy in the body that is like a regulator system that regulates all the energy, and it's located right in this area here. It's called your thyroid. When the adrenal glands are cranking out all this energy because they're dealing with the dysglycemia, which is secondary itself to the messed up digestive system, eventually the thyroid starts to slow. Anybody know what that's called?
Hypothyroidism.
Correct. And it is the jumping off point to every single thing we hate about life. Every single thing we hate about life. Low energy, problem sleeping, bad skin, bad periods if you're a woman, infertility, anxiety, heart disease, cancer, you name it. And it is all at the top end of a triangle, what I call the triangle of disease. Now here's where it gets sneaky. Here's where the restrictions to the game really kick in. After hypothyroidism, all of the 12,800 different diseases show up. That's how many different diseases there are according to the World Health Organization. 12,800 different diseases, and each one has its own foundation. I don't know if that's true, but a lot of them have their own foundations. There's a system in place that wants us to look up here when the problem is down here. Do you understand what I'm saying? All diseases follow this triangle with the hypothyroidism at the top. Everything, which is our power. That represents a restriction, and it represents power. The restriction is if you go to the doctor, you're going to think you have superdentita hyperintivus, whatever the heck he calls it in Latin. Oh, by the way, when you get a prescription in Latin, you get a prescription. Anybody ever get a prescription? You read the prescription. Do you ever wonder why it's in Latin? You think your doctor speaks Latin? He doesn't know Latin. What the heck's in Latin for?
Right, it's bad.
They write in Latin to make it magical. Magic is in words, to make it powerful, to make it mysterious. And that's what diseases are. There's this thing on TV, or not on TV, on Facebook and on social media called, I know what they call it, but it has to do with ALS, where the Ice Bucket Challenge. You know what I'm talking about? The Ice Bucket Challenge. ALS. That's another one. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Does anybody have any idea what that means?
Lou Gehrig.
No. What does it mean? Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Muscular.
No, I didn't ask you. I said, what does that mean? What does amyotrophic mean? Can anybody tell me?
No.
Of course you can't tell me. You're not supposed to be able to tell me. Amyo means without muscle. Trophy means moving. Your muscles aren't moving. Amyotrophic means your muscles don't work. Lateral, it means on the side. Sclerosis, it's the side of something, is sclerotic, which means fibrous. That's all it is, and every disease is like that. It's stuff, it's fibrous, it's degenerating, it's mushy, and they call it a different thing. It's a scam of the most epic proportions. And people say, I have ALS. No, you don't, you're rotting. That's it, you have rotting disease. Period. You have arthritis. No, you don't, you're rotting. You have rotting disease. You're degenerating because you see, in those primal distinctions we talked about, in the body, those primal distinctions show up as anabolism or catabolism. Anybody ever hear those terms, anabolism and catabolism? Anyone?
Breakdown, build up.
Very nice. Now you must have heard me say that.
I'm a nutritionist.
Okay, good. Oh, you are a nutritionist. Very nice. Very nice. Have you heard me before? Have you heard this before?
Well, I know about most people are catabolic and break it down.
Very good, my friend. This is the problem. At the end of the day, we're either anabolic or catabolic net. It's like a business. You're either in the red or you're in the black. And that's all disease is. That's all it is. It doesn't matter the name. Whatever the name is, whether it's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or whether it's myasthenia gravis or whether it's multiple sclerosis or whether it's cancer, whatever it is, you're just falling apart. That's it. That's all you need to know. You're net catabolic. Your net breakdown. Period. That simplifies everything. You don't need to know the name of your disease. But in order to figure out how to go anabolic, we got to figure out why we're net catabolic, why we're in the red. You guys get this? The body's a business when we're in the red or we're in the black. One way or another, we're on one side of the equation or another. It's not neutral. There's nothing neutral. It's either break down or build up. Look at your kid, who's a 4-year-old kid, your grandkid, your child. You look at him and you're like, you're blown away, right? The chi, the life force, the energy. That's a business that's in the black, big time. And you look at grandma, not so much. She's big. She's just barely hanging on. She's like Radio Shack. I don't know if you guys follow it. She's like hanging on by her fingernails. She's so she's so catabolic. So then the question becomes, how do we reverse this? How do we go net anabolic? That's all we need to know. You guys, every single disease solved. The cure for all. Did I do it? Is that clean? Did I miss anything? That's it, right? Go anabolic. Figure out how to reverse it. As simple as that. That should be our only concern if we're not as healthy as we want to be, or if we want to stay healthy, is how do we go anabolic? How do we go in the black? Well, first of all, you got to figure out why we're catabolic. Why are we net catabolic? What's going on? I heard somebody say something very good. But don't necessarily go off on New World Order stress or credit card bill stress. I'm talking organismic stress, physiologic stress. Did you know? Have you heard me say that before?
No, I have an autoimmune disease.
That's perfect. Perfect. Remember this, you're either with me or against me, fear or love. Remember the primal distinctions. These primal distinctions, fear, love, with me or against me, reflect themselves in the body as well. And they reflect themselves in the body through two nervous systems.
Sympathetic nervous.
Very good. You have two nervous systems. The nervous system is your mediator between the outside world and your biochemistry. It's the electrical information processing system that filters energy from the outside world to the inside world, from outside us to inside us. And it filters energy, so friggin' cool. It filters energy based on mental constructs and mental ideas and some physiologic ideas that are either about this thing is a survival threat or this thing is not a survival threat. It's filtering everything that way. It's filtering all information as, is this a survival threat or is it not a survival threat? The regulatory system that regulates survival threats is called your sympathetic nervous system. The neural regulatory system that regulates the relaxation, safety nervous system is called the parasympathetic nervous system. Everything we love about life is in the parasympathetic side. Everything that we love a little tiny bit about life but don't want a lot of is on the sympathetic side. You hear I said that? We need a little buzz. Bungee jumping, thrill-seeking behavior. This is very important, thrill-seeking behavior, stresses. Mild. We don't want to work, and we just don't want to work 40 freaking hours a week. We'll work, like if you had to work like 2, 3, 4 hours a week, that would be cool. But 40 hours a week, we need a little bit of stress. It's called hormesis in biochemistry. Things grow under the conditions of stress. Plants that live on the side of an island that have more stressors are more colorful. Nature likes its selected force. A little bit of stress, a little bit of stress, a little bit of sympathetic activity. But when the body is constantly bombarded by fear, the sympathetic nervous system starts to predominate, and almost everything we hate about being alive is regulated in this fashion. This is where the notion of staying out of fear and going into love, or staying out of the sympathetic nervous system, sympathetic activity, and going into parasympathetic activity as much as possible is so important. Guaranteed, many of you guys are in sympathetic overdrive. And I'll just tell you a couple of signs of sympathetic overdrive. Constipation, problems sleeping, high blood pressure, problems healing, skin problems, blood sugar problems. All of these are signs of sympathetic overdrive. Weight gain. If you can't lose weight, if you're trying to lose weight but it just won't come off, sympathetic overdrive. Women who are menopausal, sympathetic overdrive. Blood coagulation, blood clotting is an epidemic. It is a classic sign of sympathetic overdrive. Anxiety, mood disorders. Go down the list. Go down the list, and it's all because we're running in this fear mode, this survival mode. And you're either with me or against me. So if you're in survival mode, you're not in thrival mode. If you're in survival mode, you're not in healing mode. If you're in survival mode, you're not... Am I hitting home here? Do you guys see what the problem is? If you're in survival mode, you can't grow. When you're in survival mode, energy is redirected to the reptilian brain. Do you think it's in anybody's interest to have us in survival mode at all times? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Okay? If we're interested in accessing and leveraging the healing powers, we have to figure out how to go parasympathetic. How to relax the body from an organismic level. And there's many, many ways to do it. Deep breathing is absolutely the best. You can go 40 days without food. You can go a week, 5 days, 6 days without water, but you can't go 3 minutes without oxygen. If you want to activate the sympathetic nervous system and you want to really kick in some sympathetic energy, say you're driving, start playing with your breath. Hold your breath. Breathe shallow. Breathing shallowly, breathing to the top part of your chest, quick breathing, activate the stress response. If you want to instantly heal yourself, instantly lower your blood pressure, instantly anti-age, instantly recover from surgery, instantly fall asleep, instantly have a higher libido, instantly have a good bowel movement, instantly feel great, deep breathe for 3 minutes. I saw that app up there. I have 3 different breathing apps on my iPhone. I am tied into music. It's the most important thing you can do. And where's Bruce? He was not imagining it. You were not imagining it. Happens all the time. Imagine if we did it all the time. Deep breathing is and why is this? Deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It activates the rest nervous system. It activates the relaxation nervous system. If you don't know how to deep breathe, watch an infant. That's how you do it. Infants have no stress. They're way parasympathetic, except for bursts, which probably are a good thing for that infant. Bursts. That's how the sympathetic nervous system has to be activated in quick bursts and followed by long, luscious rest. We have a culture where that's indulgent. We've created a culture where how the body loves to be is indulgent. God wants us in a hot tub. Okay? The divine force works best in a hot tub. Why? Water activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Scientists call it immersion therapy. Forget it. Water. Take a bath. Take a hot tub. Shower. Hot shower. Why do you think all these great ideas come to people in the shower? Parasympathetic. When you're sympathetic, you're in the reptilian brain, the lower limbic and the medulla, I think it is. But frontal cortex is when you're in a shower and in a hot tub and getting a massage and taking a nap and chilling and doing nothing, which we consider to be indulgent, but it's really the best medicine there is. Just sit down, do nothing. Somebody says something, say, I'm taking my medicine. That's your medicine. It's the best medicine there is. Sitting and doing nothing. But we've created a system. I say we because we're all complicit in this. It's a game. We've created a system where the restrictions are a medical model that says that you can eat the way we eat, live the way we live, and just interface with Obamacare and you'll be fine. You don't think that there's a... Do you ever hear the Georgia Guidestones? Who am I? Right. Okay. What's one of the major principles of the Georgia Guidestones?
Leave room for nation. Population of 500,000.
Say it louder.
Limit the human population.
Limit the population. Carve it out. Cull the herd. Cull the herd. And the medical model is there to assure that's done. Obamacare is there to be sure that's done. Go ahead and eat whatever you want. We got you covered with Obamacare. Oh, by the way, you're going to be dead at age 75. Or you're going to be dead at age 80 if you're lucky, or maybe 85, and you're going to wish you were dead. It's one thing, they always talk about how people are living longer. Yeah, but they wish they were dead. They don't tell them that part. They're not running up the stairs in the Empire State Building, yet that's what's possible if we understand how to do it. So you guys got the problem, right? The problem is we're in survival mode. We're in survival mode on multiple levels. We're in survival mode spiritually by our sense of disconnection. We're in survival mode mentally and physically because fear is promoted. By the way, if you know it, if it's in the paper, if it's 9/11, clearly, you have to be a moron to think 9/11 is capping, really, with all of the stuff that's going on there, right? Why do you think it's out there? What's the purpose of releasing that stuff? If they don't want you to know, you didn't have to know. We believe whatever we're told. We don't have much of an option. We're not in Washington. We have to read the papers, or we have to read the internet. We got to read somewhere. If they want to control information, it's controlled. And there's probably, it's what we don't know. If you think this is bad, it's what we don't know. The stuff we know is the stuff you want you to know. And if you're alive, they want you alive. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's no, the real good, juicy stuff, nobody's talking about. The stuff that we know is not the good, juicy stuff. That's the stuff that's just supposed to shut down your parasympathetic nervous system and get you sympathetic. That's the stuff that's supposed to put you into fear mode and to put you into what's called learned helplessness. Anybody ever heard this term, learned helplessness? They have with rats. And the rats just give up. They say, you take care of me. So hopefully in the last little bit, I've given you a sense of the problem, so what's the solution? Because it's a game. And it's all about restrictions, but it wouldn't be a game if you couldn't get from point A to point B, because it's only a game. Do you ever hear this, Bill? You ever hear Bill Hicks?
Yeah.
Right? Awesome. Awesome, right?
Choice.
He talks about it being a ride. He calls it a ride. He says life is a ride. Well, whatever metaphor you want. The game is good because it talks about restrictions and talks about getting from point A to point B. And we can get from point A to point B. If there's a triangle of disease, there's a square of health. And the square of health, how much time do I have here, you guys? All right, 20 minutes.
As much as you want.
Okay. 20 minutes. So, do you have I'll definitely take questions. But I want you to leave with a sense of how powerful we are, not how disempowered we are. Because we are powerful. You ever hear that Nelson Mandela speech? He says, our biggust challenge is understanding how powerful, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he says our biggest challenge is understanding how powerful we are. So we are powerful. Every time you cut yourself, do you understand the miracle that happens every time we cut ourselves? I just told you about cells and the incredible nature of cells. The system is, please, this organic biocomputing suit that we ride in, it's beyond science fiction. This is an amazing ride we've got. So obviously we can heal, and obviously we can grow, and obviously we can survive. We wouldn't have made it this far if we couldn't. So what do? How do we access this, the power that's the human body? Well, if there's a triangle of disease, there's a square of health, and the square of health is nutriate, oxygenate, stress, and rest. Nutriate, oxygenate, stress, and rest. Starting with rest. Understand the power of relaxation. Relax at every turn, wherever possible. Relax the body, relax the mind, relax everything. You cannot do your best work when you're not relaxed. You can't fight the New World Order when you're not relaxed. You can't take care of your kids when you're not relaxed. You have to understand how to relax. You have to be zen about the relaxation because you have to be observant and aware. But you can't be maximally observant and aware when you're not relaxed. So understanding the relaxation response is important. But it has to be spiked with stress. It has to be spiked with intervals of stress. In terms of the body, you have to figure out a way to give yourself some physical duress. And that could be walking up the stairs. It could be doing sprints. If you're in a gym, if you're working out in a gym, it means sprinting, not jogging. 30 seconds. You know how to get a good workout, to get a good cardio workout, to get a good physical workout, you need 2 minutes. 2 minutes! You do it on the stairs. 2 minutes. Run up the stairs 2 or 3 times. That's enough. Plenty. That's the way the body likes to have stresses. It likes quick bursts of stresses, physical stresses. Emotionally and mentally, same idea. Challenge yourself. I named a disease after my dad, called old man's disease. You don't have to be old man to get it. You could be a woman and you could be young and get it. Old man's disease is, I named this after him. Maybe you guys can relate to it if you have a dad or granddad. Old man's disease is when you know everything. You know exactly how everything is. You know a history and you know politics and you have opinions on everything and you are right because you're old. That's called old man's disease. And the problem with old man's disease, is that all right? I hope I'm not offending anybody here. Old man's disease. If you have old man's disease, it means you're contracting. and you're running high risk for Alzheimer's disease. Because your brain runs best with a little bit of stimulation. So learn a new language, travel to a different country, play a musical instrument, do crossword puzzles. Those are the people who don't get Alzheimer's disease if you're challenging your brain. Challenge your emotions. Challenge everything in your body quickly and maximize the rest that follows. And then make sure you're oxygenating. Deep breathing at all turns. Deep breathing is unspeakably important. As I said, the water, you go 3 to 5 days without water. Food, 30 days, 40 days without food. More without food. But you ain't going 3 minutes without oxygen. If you want to activate the the sympathetic nervous system, the stress nervous system, just go without oxygen. Anybody get panic attacks in this room? What happens right before your panic attack? Exactly. Exactly. You have problems breathing. If you want to bust the cycle, start practicing deep breathing quickly. Learn deep breathing. You want to, and what's your name, sir?
Johnny.
So you want to know what Johnny feels like? For those of us who don't get panic attacks, you know what Johnny, if you want to know what Johnny feels like, if you want to empathize with Johnny, hold your breath. And then when it's time to breathe again, don't breathe. Now you'll force, your body is not, we're an organism and the body has a mind of its own and it will make you breathe. But for that second when you're trying to override it with your will, you'll get all jittery and you'll get all freaky and you'll get a friggin' panic attack. And that's how powerful it is. But we don't have to be suffocating in order to experience a panic attack. We can be shallow breathing and suffering from long-term sustained subclinical panic attacks. Little microscopic panic attacks. Wilhelm Reich. Anybody hear of Wilhelm Reich? Wilhelm Reich was a brilliant physician from the 1930s and 40s and 50s, ended up dying in jail, of course, because he had the nerve to say that everything was an orgasm. He said the world was run by one big orgasm, and if you're sick, you're not plugged into the cosmic orgasm. I'm not kidding you. He said that. He said he could cure cancer by having people he called it orgone energy. And they put him in jail.
The winter I have dirty old man's disease.
What's that? Dirty old man's disease. That's different. That's good, though. I'm going to remember that. That's good. I like that. That's a branch. Okay, that's good. Appreciate that. All right. So anyway, so you got to practice the deep breathing. It's critically important. It lowers stress hormones. It improves your ability to fight disease. And it's so friggin' simple and free to do. It's obscene. It's obscene. It's so easy to do, and you improve every single marker of health with something as simple as deep breathing. Okay, and that's ironically we've known about for thousands of years. Yes. Okay, and then there's the last part is the nutrition part, which is what I actually love the most. Is the nutrition part. You notice I didn't even mention nutrition yet, and that is what I personally love the most. But compared to everything else, compared to feeling safe, compared to being out of survival mode, compared to being in thrival mode, compared to the anabolic catabolic equation, compared to the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, really nutrition is almost the smallest part. Oxygenation, nutrition is almost like the smallest part, but it's still very, very important. See, we are energetic beings, and we need to have energy to drive the chemistry of our body. Energy is basically run through a system, and it is ridiculously beautiful and intricate and complex and technical, and it's absolutely mind-blowing how it all works. But the short story is sugar or some derivative thereof is burnt and energy comes out of it. That's basically how we're fueled. Sugar or protein that's turned into sugar of some sort is burnt. Just like I was talking earlier about the fire in the sugar factory, sugar is burnt. Do you ever put a marshmallow in a fire? What happens to that? It goes poof. That energy is somehow channeled, listen up because this is super cool, that energy of a burnt marshmallow is somehow channeled into chemistry. Magically channeled. The explosive energy is called macronutrition. And the magical pixie dust that directs that macronutrition into the right chemistry is called micronutrition. Macronutrition we know as proteins and carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are actually fats and sugars. Both fats and sugars are carbohydrates, technically speaking. And so energy in the body is derived from wood, protein, and carbohydrates. And then pixie dust is sprinkled on the wood, and poof, these energetic reactions occur that are specifically channeled into biochemistry. Here's the important point to take home. If you have the macronutrition fire without the micronutrition pixie dust, the explosions become chaotic. The job of the pixie dust is to direct the energy into the right reactions. Without the pixie dust, you just get this explosive, chaotic energy, and that is not good. And over the last 200 years, what we've figured out how to do in all of our evil genius kind of ways is divorce the energy from the pixie dust. And so our bodies are trying to run on chaotic energy without having the pixie dust to direct the chaotic energy into the right biochemistry. We have a pixie dust deficiency. We are suffering from pixie dust deficiency health issues. So we have plenty. You understand how I'm wording this? Am I doing okay with this? Because this is a very important metaphor to get, because this really tells you what nutrition is about. It's about energy that's then channeled into the most incredibly complex and intricate biochemistry via magical pixie dust that we call vitamins and minerals. And it all starts with the soil. It all starts with the soil. So it's absolutely imperative, as unpleasant as it is, in my humble opinion, you may disagree, but I've been studying this for many, many years. It's absolutely imperative that we support our food with supplements.